Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Now let us talk about these terms individually. First, let us talk about growth. As we have already discussed, growth is something which is used in the physical sense. The increase in size, the increase in length. Let's say the size of my shoe has increased from 4 to 5. Okay. The length, as I said, the length of my hair has increased. My height grew from 5 to 5'3". My weight changed from 45 to 50, let's say. So all these changes that I just talked about, all these changes that I gave you an example of, these changes are quantitative in nature. Because we can always measure them. We can always calculate what change has been brought over in our size, in the length of our hair, let's say, in our weight or in our height. So therefore, growth is that aspect, of one's life that can be measured, that can be observed by one in a very specific manner. Anybody who sees us, if we've become taller, is going to notice that yes, we've gained height. Anybody who sees us and notices that we've grown fatter is going to observe and objectify that. Anybody who sees that, our hair have grown longer, that also is going to be very visible. So these aspects that can be very visibly observed by a person and can be measured by a person also are a part of the growth domain. Now, as I have told you, development was a whole concept. Okay, it was a wider concept. Growth is just one of the parts of development. Development means an overall improvement in a person with respect to behavior and every which way possible. While growth is just a small part, it is just a small aspect of the development process that we talk about. If I say that a child has developed from a notorious teenager to a smart and sensible man, let's say. So if I give this statement about something, I am considering both the things. I know that from adolescence to the to a man, the child has grown physically also. Maybe since I'm talking about a boy, he has moustache, he has a beard now, which can be visibly seen by somebody. And has obviously become more sensible, has become smarter and wiser now. So growth was just a small part of, development. It was a small aspect of development that we are considering, that we are talking about. Now, let us look at some of the definitions that have been put forward for growth. As I have already informed you when I took up the first unit, it is very important for you to learn the definitions which are given by heart. When it comes to the explanation of the concept, yes, we can explain it in our words. There is no problem if what we are speaking, what we are writing is correct. That is absolutely fine. You don't need to explain everything by heart. But when I talk about the definitions, now the definitions have to be written by you in the most accurate manner. Let's say, for example, the first definition is according to Encyclopedia Britannica, which defines growth as an increase in the size or the amount of an entity. Okay, the increase in the size of something. It says this definition means that growth involves all the structural as well as the physiological changes that take place. Structural changes means the changes in our body, again something that is visible. And physiology means the mechanism of our brain. Okay, what takes place inside our brain, that also grows. So this is what Encyclopedia Britannica believes. Now, for example, I have already told you that a child, when grows, is going to bring about a change, is going to have an increased weight, height, and the different organs. The arm is going to become longer, the fingers are going to become longer, the hair probably are going to grow longer, the feet size is going to change. So these are all the changes that are brought over by growth. Herlock, who is another famous psychologist, has defined growth as a change in the size, proportion, and disappearance of the old features and the acquisition of new ones. So according to Herlock, growth means that one has a change in size. We know that the size of a person changes. Proportionately also the person changes with respect to the body weight and height. There is a change in the person's structure. And Herlock also believes that the old features of a person disappear and the person acquires. Acquires means inculcates, gets new features in oneself. That is what Herlock believes. New features, for example, the boys, when they grow up, they have beard and mustache. The girls also have taller and beautiful hair, and there are so many visible and physical changes that can be seen in one. Now, according to Crow and Crow, as stated by him in 1962, growth refers to structural and physiological changes in just the way Encyclopedia Britannica had stated. Therefore, growth means increase in the physical size of a whole body. Either there is a change in the entire body of a person that can be measured by you, or a change in one of its parts that can be measured. As I said, the growth of the arm, the growth of hair, the growth of fingers, feet, and so on and so on. So this is what growth is. The objective or the quantitative changes that take place in one's body are termed as growth. Now let us look into the characteristics. What are the characteristics of growth, First, hereditary. If I am tall, that is probably because I have inherited genes from my parents that make me tall. And if I am short, again my genes are such, my parents must also be short-heighted, and that is why even I am short-heighted. The physical factors also play a very important role in the growth of a person. A child who is very actively involved in sports, let's say, swims, plays badminton, basketball, is a good athlete, so physical factors means the factors that affect the child in a physical environment. Those factors also have a very good impact. If a child is provided with good opportunities and better ways by the parents only, if the parents feel that the child should be an all-rounder and not only be a bookworm, but also devote equal time in the playground. We have parents who have this ideology these days. So their physical growth will be different as compared to somebody who remains at home and continues to be behind the book. The next characteristic which defines growth is, again, you can see a change in the height and weight of the person. That is something which is very, very obvious and can be noticed by anyone and everyone. The changes that take place when I talk about growth are quantitative in nature, additive in nature, and augmentative. Quantitative, I know how much weight have I gained. Additive means, again, I can view the changes. Additive and augmentative means that I can view and compare the changes that have taken place over the months, let's say, or over the years or over the weeks. So this again can be compared and measured. Growth stops at a particular point in time. Now this again is a very important difference between growth and development. I told you that development is an ongoing process and you will continue to develop until you die. But growth in your body will stop at a particular point in life. And it is not important that growth need not necessarily cause development in all the cases. Let's say if the child is becoming taller, does not mean that a child who's getting height, is getting taller, is becoming smarter as well. A child who's growing just perfectly fine, has got the best body, has got just the most healthy and appropriate changes taking place with respect to their age, does not mean that development is also likewise. It does not mean that the child is becoming, is gaining a good behavior also. So that is not something which is obvious. The rate of growth is distinct and unique in every person. Not everybody grows in the similar manner. As I told you, I gave you an example. If I give you the example of, let's say, myself, I have friends who are taller than me, but I could not get that height. So every person has a distinct feature, has a unique, aspect of growth in them. And it is not necessary that everybody is going to grow in the similar manner. And again, individual differences are very apparent and obvious. One can obviously say and compare two individuals with respect to their growth. I stand with somebody else, one can compare, she is taller, she is shorter, she has got long hair, she's got short hair, and so on and so forth. So since we are talking about something that can be measured, that is quantitative in nature, therefore, observing something, specifying something is very easy when we talk about growth. So these were the characteristics of growth. Now comes development. As I have already told you, where growth was quantitative changes that take place in a human being. Development refers to the qualitative changes that take place in a person. How much a person has improved qualitatively is what development takes care of. And as I already told and repeated, that development is a continuous process. You are going to develop. Physical development will take place, which is growth. We know that physical development or growth is going to stop at a certain point of time. Then emotional development is never ending. We are going to become stronger with each passing day. And intellectual development means our cognitive skills, our brain, our mind. It also is going to develop if I expose myself to better books. If in the free time, rather than watching television, I believe in solving, let's say, a Sudoku puzzle. What do you think? Whose development, whose intellectual development is going to be better? The one who plays a Sudoku puzzle. On the other hand, I'm not contesting over here the fact that watching television is wrong. Because when we watch television, we have to be very selective of what we watch. If I am watching television, let's say there is a sci-fi movie that I am watching on television, that will also end up teaching me something very important about science, some new technology, some new terminology, some good vocabulary might, fall into my bag. That again is something which is going to make me intellectually smart. Now, when I talked about the emotional development, a teenager is aggressive, short-tempered, but with the growth, with the passage of time, with the growing years, The person becomes calm and composed and patient. So these are the emotional changes that take place. So in short, growth is a very wide and development is a wider and a comprehensive term. As I told you, that growth is just one small aspect of development, while development is a very wide and comprehensive term. And something which is very important for you to understand is, just the way I said that if a person is growing, does not mean that that person is developing also. Right? I told that to you, that if a person has become tall, that does not mean the person has become smart also. Similarly, even if the person is not growing, we can still see a development in that person. Let's say the person has the same height, same weight, everything is the same. The person looks exactly the same the way he or she looked 10 years back. But over these 10 years, though there have been no physical changes brought over in the person, no growth could be seen, but yes, there has been a remarkable development in that person. The person had become more smarter, has become wiser, has become more patient, has become more understanding, sensible. All these developments can be seen in that person. So, development of a person is not dependent on the growth of a person, and they are independent concepts. Just the way growth does not mean the person is developing, similarly, if a person is developing does not mean that the person is growing as well. So, both growth and development are independent of each other. Now, let us look at the definitions of development. Now, according to the Webster's Dictionary, we know Webster's Dictionary is a very famous one. Development is defined as the series of changes which take place, changes which an organism undergoes in passing from an embryonic state to maturity. Embryo, we all know when, you are conceived, when we are inside the womb of a lady, we are in the embryo stage. That is the first stage that we have. And from then we continue to grow over a period of time. So development is something that starts when you are an embryo and continues to take place, till the time you reach your maturity level. This is what Webster's Dictionary has defined development as. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, development is defined as the progressive changes in size, shape and function during the life of an organism, by which its genetic potential is translated into functioning adult system. So, according to Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, development means progressive changes. Progressive, continuous. So, according to Encyclopedia, they consider the aspect of growth also to be a part of development, and they state that the changes in height, the changes in shape, this is a part of growth, and along with it, what did you inherit? What genes did you get from your parents, from your ancestors, and how did you translate them into an adult being? How did you use or how did you make an improvement with what you had already received at the time of birth? That also is development. So development includes physiological, psychological changes that take place in the functions and the activities of different organs of an organism. Psychological changes, we have again studied psychology at length in Unit 1. Psychology is the study of our soul. It is the study of our mind. It is the study of our brain. So, the changes that take place in the spirit, in the soul, in the mind of a person, and how does a person function? What all betterment can be seen in the activities of a person, in the activities of, how a person performs different tasks. All these things fall into the category of development itself. According to Skinner, who's a very famous psychologist, development is a continuous and a gradual process. So continuous, we are going to continue to develop, and gradual. Gradual means at a static pace we are going to increase and become better day by day. It does not mean that it is going to be a very steep line, that today I will start developing and I'm going to develop 10 times every single day. No. There is some amount of development which is added to our account with each passing day, and that is what makes a person develop and mature. According to Crow and Crow, development is concerned with growth as well as those changes in the behavior which result from the environmental situation. So Crow and Crow feel that development means the changes, the physical changes, the quantitative changes that take place in a human being, as well as the changes in the behavior that can be seen of a person. Both these aspects are a part of development. According to E.B. Herlock also again we understand, development means a progressive series of changes that occur in an orderly and predictable pattern as a result of maturation and experience. So Herlock believes that when a person becomes mature, the person grows in age and has a lot of experience added to one's account, there are going to be better changes that will take place in a person. You know, we usually say that with experience teaches you everything. Our grandparents, they are so experienced, you know, more experienced than even our parents. So that has made them maturer, that has made them more sensible and has made them smarter than the others. So experience also adds to your level of development, as well as the maturity with which you deal with things. How do you behave in certain situations? That also adds to your development. According to Piercy London, development means the whole sequence of life from conception to death. As I said, development is something which begins when you are in an embryonic stage, when you are just an embryo in your mother's womb, and it takes place until you die. So this is the entire process of development that continues throughout your life. According to Gesell, development is more important than the ordinary change. Development can be observed, and to a certain extent it can be measured and evaluated. Now Gesell has a different take on development. He feels that we can measure development to some extent. We cannot calculate the way we can, calculate the growth of somebody, but it can be measured and it can be evaluated to some extent. And what are the three ways that he feels the development can be evaluated? Anatomic, physiological, and behavioral. Anatomic means in our body. Anatomy, we know, is the field of science that teaches you about your body. So bodily changes. Physiological means the mind, the mechanism of your mind, that is going to define how you develop, and the changes in your behavior. So according to him, these are the three ways in which one can evaluate the development that has taken place in a person over the years. And he also feels that development, behavioral science provide elaborate indices of the individual's power and his level of development. The changes that take place in one's behavior are going to define how well, how powerfully, how strongly the person has improved, has developed over these years. So thus, as we have inferred from all the definitions that we have read, Development is a continuous process. It will not stop at any stage. It is a process in which one grows. There is physical change also that can be seen in the person, and also the person reaches some level of maturity. The person, in accordance with the situations and the environment that he or she is exposed to, is obviously defining how well that person has developed. So these are the definitions of development.